Of the older women on the crescent, she was the only one who pretended to any sort of fashion, and I well remember the day she appeared at our house in her first short skirt. Mother gave one shocked look at her legs and from that moment on never glanced lower than her chin. But not one of us ever guessed, until our lives were thrown into chaos by the strange occurrences of last August, that Laura Dalton was still wildly and jealously in love with her husband. The last house, nearest the gate on our left, was the Wellingtons, and they provided us with our only gaiety and with plenty of excitement. They were younger. For one thing, Jim Wellington had inherited the place on his mother's death. But they were always threatening divorce. One day Mary, our elderly cook, would report to us for the morning orders with the statement, "She left last night. Called a taxicab and took her trunk." And by she we always knew who was meant. Or again, "Mr. Wellington, he lit out this morning. Gone to his club to live." They would effect a reconciliation, of course, and celebrate it with a party. Pretty lively parties, they were, too. Sometimes after Mother had gone to bed I would slip out and listen to the noise, or look in at a window. Sometimes I would see Helen Wellington on the dark porch with some man or other, in a dress which, as Miss Mamie would say, was cut clear down to nature. But Mother never let me go to these parties. She considered Helen a bad influence and a hussy, and she deplored both her morals and her housekeeping. These were the 5 houses on the crescent, and the people who occupied them on that appalling August afternoon of last year. People and houses, we were united by the old road in front of us which was now a street, by the grapevine path at the rear, and by a sort of mutual seclusion which more and more shut away the outside world. To this world we made few concessions. Mrs. Talbot's basques and cameo jewelry were taken for granted as much as Mother's crepe or Emily Lancaster's high pompadour built over a cushion of net and wire. The suspicious bulges on Lydia Talbot's thin figure we accepted as the curves of nature and not of art, and on Monday, which was of course the crescent washing day, our clotheslines at the rear showed row on row of self-respecting but hardly exotic undergarments. I remember meeting Helen Wellington on the back path shortly after her marriage, and seeing her stare at the Lancaster washing. She caught me by the arm. "Listen," she said, in her quick staccato voice. Do they all wear things like that? Most of them. You see, they always have. Do you? Not always? But I wash them myself. She gave me a sharp glance. Pretty well buried alive, aren't you? She said. Nothing ever has happened and so nothing ever will. Why don't you get out? Beat it? You're still young. You're not bad looking. Beat it? Where to? I couldn't even sell mothballs. You would think of mothballs. She cast a quick appraising glance about her. Well, you never can tell. The older the house the better it burns. You may all go up like a tinder box someday. It isn't natural. What isn't natural? This peace, this smug damnable peace. It's degenerating. Whereupon she lit the first cigarette ever smoked by a woman in that vicinity, and moved along the path. The last I saw of her she was standing in fascinated awe, gazing unabashed at a row of long-sleeved nightdresses and Mr. Lancaster's long cotton underdrawers. She was right in her prophecy, of course. But it was 6 years before it came true. 6 years almost to a day until the match was applied to our tinder box and old Mrs. Lancaster, alone in her bed in the big front room of the white colonial house, was brutally and savagely done to death with an axe. Chapter 2. As I have said, one of the windows in my bedroom on the second floor commands a view of a part of the Lancaster house. That is, I can see from it all of the roof, a part of the second story and a small side entrance door which opens onto the wide strip of lawn with flower borders which separates the two houses. This area belongs, half to the Lancasters and half to us, and a row of young Lombardy poplars forms the dividing line. At 4 o'clock that Thursday afternoon, then, I was sitting at this window sewing. Mother had just started for a drive, and old Eben, the gardener for all the 5 properties, was running his lawn mower over the lawn, the cut tips of the grass marking a small green cascade just ahead of it.